Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of Outreach with Reggie. I'm your host, Reggie Holloway, and this podcast is about connection, culture, and a conversation that reaches deeper than the scroll. Today's episode is personal. It's called I'm a PBS Kid, because before I had a voice, before I had a mic, before I even knew how to speak up for myself, I had public broadcasting. So stay tuned for the very first episode of Outreach with Reggie. Now, the very first question that I would like to ask and answer: what does it mean to be a PBS kid? Well, it's simple. If you grew up in a house without cable within the 90s and early 2000s, PBS was your lifeline. That was the channel that showed up for you every afternoon, every morning, and sometimes every weekend. And it gave us more than cartoons, of course. And those cartoons was beautiful. I mean, I can think about the lineup now. Arthur, Reading Rainbow, Wish, Cyber Chase, Zoom, Between the Lions. Beautiful, outstanding cartoons, Clifford, Dragon Tales, and many more. But these weren't just shows. They were lessons. And more than anything, to me, it gave us people to look up to. People like LeVar Burton, the host of Reading Rainbow. And Reading Rainbow didn't just make me love books and literature. No, it made me feel seen. Because LeVar was calm, but he was also wise and passionate about learning. Yes, he was. And he looked like me. He showed me that black boys could be intellectual while also being curious, expressive, and yet still be powerful. Then there's Mr. Rogers. Fred Rogers was the first adult I ever saw on TV who made a safe space for emotions. And he didn't rush, he didn't judge, he didn't have any form of prejudice within him. Because he made it okay to feel. Not only okay to feel, but also okay to ask questions, to slow down, and to just be. And when you got a chance to look at what his show was, it was a beautiful space. He told us that we were worthy just as we were. And in a world that often tries to harden you by its political beliefs and standards and social and cultural upheaval or cultural or group behavior, that softness, that sense of empathy and sympathy for your neighbor, asking the question, won't you be my neighbor? And that sense of space didn't look like anything. It was a sense of softness that was revolutionary. So when I say I'm a PBS kid, no matter if it was the shows, the ambiance, the coming home, the excitement to learn, I'm saying that I was raised by that sense of empathy that I got from those shows, from the people who was behind the shows. I'm saying I was raised by the curiosity of knowing what's out there in the world, beyond that screen, but through that screen, being the meter between me and that space. I was raised by the voices that reached out through the screen and said, you matter, you belong, and keep going. These are the essential things that I got looking at public broadcasting as a kid, and I quite believe is much needed now, but I am going to go into why that matters right now. Now, as beautiful as those shows are, and as beautiful as the message that they gave within every show, within every lesson, within every classroom that was in front of that television, public broadcasting isn't just nostalgia. I have to say that again. Public broadcasting is not just nostalgia. It's a need, and it's a need now more than ever. PBS, NPR, and local stations that are within your state and town and city, they are some of the last spaces in media that aren't driven by clicks or outrage. They are funded by the public, for the public. They tell stories that commercial media ignores. They highlight local voices and diverse voices, along with community voices, because they don't chase the trends. They educate, document, and inform. And for kids today, public TV still has shows that teach emotional intelligence, science, reading, and most importantly, identity, all without ads or subscriptions. But fewer people are tuning in, and I can assure you now, that is by no accident whatsoever. But how does this happen? How within the past 25 years have we gone from this nature of what educational television has meant, not even educational television, but just public television of what it is, to where we are now within the space of media? Well, I'll explain that too. As I explain where we are in the dynamic change, there's only one real catalyst for that change, and we have to be very honest. Streaming has changed everything, and it's not that bad of a thing, but we have to be honest. Has it made it accessible to get our media within the palm of our hands? Yes, but in the process of that, we have lost a few key things that kept the glue together regarding our homes, our housing, our sense of family dynamics all together. But let me go further into that when it comes to public broadcasting. We used to watch the same shows at the same time, learning the same things, while being able to bond and grow together. Now, it's Netflix here, it's Disney there, it's YouTube everywhere. There's media everywhere. Speaking of YouTube, feel free to subscribe to Outreach with Reggie, and on Spotify by the same name, Outreach with Reggie. But nevertheless, everything is on demand. Everything is behind a paywall. And within the process of everything being subscription-based, on demand, on the go, PBS is slowly, or public broadcasting is slowly pulling away or falling in the laps. And yes, PBS tried to adapt, and they did. They launched applications, they put episodes on YouTube, but when you're competing against billion-dollar media machines like a Netflix, a Peacock, which is backed by NBC, when you have YouTube that's backed by Google, and you have many other subsidiaries that's backed by Disney and other places, it's very hard to stand out. And unlike those giants, like Viacom, PBS does not have endless funding. It does not run on ads. It runs on us, the public. I remember and you probably remember this too, the term viewers like you. Thank you. And what viewers like you meant were viewers, essentially viewers who pay taxes, and those tax dollars went into, a piece of those tax dollars went back into your local public broadcasting stations that were able to create shows just like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and just like Reading Rainbow, and just like Clifford the Big Red Dog, and just like all the ones that you were able to know and familiarize yourself with. These were backed by your tax dollars, along with the U.S. Department of Education and stuff like that. But yes, these were the essentials. It was backed and ran by us, viewers like you. And now, to add that to the political pressure. Public broadcasting is constantly under threat of Congress, but with some lawmakers calling it non-essential, and they keep trying to cut its federal support. Eventually, up until now, federal support has been cut. But let me break that down. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which supports PBS and NPR, gets a subsidiary amount of money, along with viewers like you who pay your taxes and able to also fund it so they can create shows and be able to be backed. Meanwhile, Netflix spends over billions of dollars on content, IPs, getting your favorite shows on their platforms. And like other streaming services, you have a lot of driving force because people love shows like Friends and shows like other popular shows and movies you like. So essentially, Netflix gets cookies while PBS gets a crumb. But with that crumb, it feeds the mind. And that's why it's important. It feeds millions and millions of minds of children and youth. And it's built futures. It has built the future of millions and billions of kids who's gone on to be these politicians, artists, scholars, and the everyday man and woman. It cares. And in today's world, that is very rare. So when they lost the funding, not only did you lose funding, we're cutting access, free access to kids who may not have that $7.99, or a family that may not have the $9.99, $7.99, $16.99, to pay to watch Sesame Street, to pay to watch free educational programming. We're cutting access, we're cutting equity, and we're cutting truth. Realistically, this is why I created Outreach with Reggie. Because of the things that shaped me, like PBS, are fading away. And I don't want the next generation to grow up without that grounding that we had through these shows. The people that we had, like a Bob Ross, like LeVar Burton, like Mr. Rogers, and like many other people and faces in programming that I had the privilege, the true privilege, to grow up, to understand how these things were not only just essential, these things were much needed into a space that honestly are uncommon now. But not only that, it's the gentleness, that sense of real community care to provide through media. I want to highlight the people, the programs, and the principles that still believe in equality and equity, in education and in empathy. because that's what matters to me, along with the things I do within advocacy, for sure. And I want to challenge all of us to protect what matters before it's gone. This podcast is going to be very personal, and I don't mind, because like my heroes, like the people who I looked up to, I want to be that safe space, and I want people to believe again. And I'm not saying I'm going to be this wild person that's going to pull you in, because I'm not perfect. I'm never going to be perfect. I can only be a man that's going to try. And it's going to be cultural. And it's going to be rooted in one question: how do we reach each other for real? Putting, no matter what our differences are, no matter what we believe in, no matter what our understanding on life is, I want us to have a safe space that we can come together and understand and reach each other and make impact again, and smile again, and be neighbors again, in a very cliche way, but in a real way too. If this episode's to you, if you were raised on PBS, or if you believe in public media, I need your voice too. Share this episode, tag a fellow PBS kid, and donate to your local public station if you can. Because this is bigger than one network. This is about what we value. This is about what we pass on and how we move forward, and be the reflection that we aim to see. Thanks for tuning in to Outreach with Reggie. I'm Reggie Holloway, and I'll catch you next time. Thank you. Take care.